Greetings and welcome back everyone to Factorio Beginner's Guide, where I am joined as ever by Shen.
Shenluigi. How's it going?
Shenluigi.
Aavak Mario.
I think you'll find my name is Count Avacula. You should be able to see it quite easily on your screen.
Well, if I wasn't blind, I could see it for sure.
Okay, right. Well, in this episode, following the last episode where we set up the infrastructure to allow us to build railway and just had a bunch of automated processes that we really needed to get done, we've laid down the tracks, if you will, for building our rail network. And now in this episode, we're going to stop laughing at me so much.
Now in this episode, we're actually going to lay down the tracks.
Yeah, that's right. It would have been so much better if you didn't just break out into laughter. God damn it, Shannon, ruining my jokes.
So the plan is we're going to head over to this iron patch in the east, and we're going to put down some walls around it with some turrets to get it protected. And as soon as it's protected, we can start setting up our rail line back and forth from that little outpost to our base. Then we can get some miners out there on the iron and get it loading and unloading. We'll show you how to do all of that.
Exactly. One last thing I would like to cover just before we leave. I did go ahead and mirror our energy production because we were getting a little bit low. So now we've got twice as many steam engines running to power this main part of the base. And we are very, very comfortable in terms of power now. We are using about half as much as we can produce. And we can sustain that for a long time.
Yep. Okay. All right. So shall we head to the outpost?
Indeed.
We need to come up with a nice name for the outpost.
Right. Well, that's actually a very good point. We need a name. It's an iron. We could call it Iron Town.
Ironton? Okay. Ironton it is. There's no W in Ironton, by the way.
No, there's not. There is a W in Iron Town, is what I said to begin with, because I was taking it from an anime, you uncultured swine. But fine. Beautiful anime as well.
Building some walls out here. We're going to connect up to the water.
Yeah, might as well.
If you're not aware of this, water actually is essentially a wall. It's a non-destructible wall. It's fantastic.
The one thing to discuss here is, are we going to be producing more power locally, or do we want to run it all the way from the main base? Now, obviously, if you run it from the main base, if anything should ever destroy any of those power poles, your outpost loses power. That's a bad thing.
And I thought we were going to run it from the main base because I didn't pack away any steam engines on me. Did you?
That is not a problem. I can very quickly make a little steam engine setup. It's probably worth having because you're going to want electric inserters for the loading and the unloading of the trains. It's not going to be an issue. Though, that said, we would need to bring coal over, thinking about it. No, we'll just run it, as you said, then just run it across. Later on, when building outposts, you can go ahead and do things like setting up solar farms on the spot because it doesn't require any outlay of resources for that. I'm just going to run a power pole down from about here. Yeah, just from there. If you just hold down left click and just run, you'll drop a power pole at its maximum range all the way along. So in this case, there's a 2 gap and then it sinks another power pole. Now the gates are unpowered, by the way. You don't need power to operate a gate.
It's just like transport belts. They don't require electricity. What's kind of interesting, though, is the biders will typically leave power poles alone because the power poles themselves don't produce any pollution. They're not really attached to anything that does either. They're just out there on their own, isolated. So the biders will typically go after things that produce pollution, like radars produce a lot of pollution. Factory, assembly lines do a lot of pollution. So they'll typically go after those devices rather than going after a power pole.
I'm not actually sure if radars do produce pollution themselves. Rather, they do seem to produce heat, though. In terms of aggression from the biters, but I can't be entirely certain.
I think they're programmed to be really high priority for the biters for some reason.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're getting some turrets down over there.
Then I'll just manually hook this up to the rest of the network. There we go. Perfect. Now I'll just drop down some ammo I brought along quite a lot just for this reason, because we don't have to worry about. Now, Shenny's going to start dropping down a bunch of the miners. With an outpost, there's no reason to be frugal. Just literally strip mine the whole thing. Don't try to be balanced with nature. There's no point. The enemy, we're horrible
going
people.
To be moving your outposts from place to place over time as they run out of resources. So it's just plan ahead that you're going to be getting rid of them at some point. Don't be too attached to their locations.
Now, what we're probably going to do is we're going to just get the basics of this outpost setup off camera, and we will then bring you back when we're ready to start the important work of setting up the trains. So, see you in a few moments. And welcome back. As you can see, Shen and I have been moderately busy. No, I'm nowhere near as busy as bees. My lord, do you know what they do in a day? My goodness. But
so we put down a whole bunch of miners.
Yes.
This may look excessive, but the whole idea is we don't want to keep coming back and forth here. Yeah. So let's just put the miners down now and forget about this place.
Yeah. Now, the thing is you are going to have to come back, or at least we will, because we've got regular turrets, and they shoot bullets, and bullets need to be replenished. There are two ways you can deal with that. Either occasionally drop by with a fresh load of ammo and just dump it in there, or alternatively, you can have a separate train, or maybe the same train. Maybe you just have one awesome train that just moves around every little outpost, and it has one wagon dedicated to ammo and repair packs or something.
It can be done.
Yeah, or you can have a separate train that literally all it does is it drops off a little bit more ammo at all of the outposts and just moves back and forth. And we've got a little bit of a biter incursion down here that we should be able to very easily deal with here.
Here they come. Look at them die.
Yeah, our turrets are very powerful at this point.
But we plan on upgrading all of our turrets eventually to laser turrets. Yeah. And once you have those, all they need are electricity, and they do not require any more ammunition. And that really is the way that people go with their... It's not required, but it is the way that people tend to go with their bases. So in our case,
because I'm contrary, and I like guns.
In our case, we do plan on putting lasers down here at some point, so we're not going to have to bring out ammunition on a regular basis. Yeah.
I actually genuinely just like the extra challenge of having a train that just stops around places dropping off ammo. And that's the only reason I do it, just so I have a reason to do it. And part of the fun for me in Factorio is giving myself these little goals. Not strictly necessary, but pretty fun to do anyway. Also kind of looks cool.
So we already have a door in our wall over here.
Indeed we do.
And I love that you can rotate the door and it still works. That's so awkward. Oh my goodness.
It is very awkward.
Okay, so we're going to put down our train tracks over here.
You may notice.
The door,
yep.
And they go right through the door.
Uh-huh. It's got a different kind of graphic.
Just like anything else, you press R to rotate them. There are angled, 45 degrees, 90 degrees. What is the next one? 135, I guess. And then 180.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm also going to drop down a little chest over here just to... have some guns right next to the doorway in case biters try to follow our train.
Sounds good. At the end here, we're going to put down a train stop. And this did require research that I guess we didn't cover for some reason. It is just called automated rail transportation. It doesn't require any extra research at all. It's simply the next thing after you finish railway research, then you research automated rail transportation. And this is what allows you to use train stops. And train stops, you just plunk them down wherever you want the train to stop. In this case, we've spaced out the goods that we want to go onto the train on both sides of the track. And now, if we put a locomotive down right here, there we go. We can put a little fuel in there. Oh, right, I guess we should go over what you do with a train.
Indeed,
well, you have to put it down on a track. And the train has cargo, and it also has fuel, and they are completely separate. And if you click on the train itself, it pops up the train's schedule.
Yep.
And this little circle here allows you to see the locomotive. The schedule itself tells you what stops it goes to, and how long it'll stay at each stop, et cetera, et cetera. But in our case, we want to hit the locomotive, and we want to put some fuel in one of these 3 fuel tanks. So we got a little coal in there. There we go. And now we can tell the train... Oh, we need to name this train stop. If you have a train stop, it's going to be given a random name. In this case, it's called Nang Tang Tan. And these are simply people who were Kickstarter supporters for this game.
Yeah.
You can rename it to whatever you want. In this case, we're going to call it Ironton, because this is the town of Iron. So if you go back to our train, click on the train, it says its only destination is Ironton. So we're going to tell it, run the train. Go to Ironton.
You click on it, and you click the Add Station button. There we go. It's now added to the schedule. Now, do not stand in front of the train when you do this. Trains, You might think, well, it's going to start slow. I'll have time to get away. No. Trains pretty much...
They're nuts.
They start fast. And
they're really good.
They hit like a train, as one might expect.
Okay, so behind a train, you're going to need these things called cargo wagons. And if you mouse over behind the train, you'll see a little attachment icon, which will let you know for sure whether or not the box is attaching to the train. And they attach one to the next, to the next, to the next.
I'm just going to take one down so I can do that on my screen there. So there's that little green link there, just to let you know.
Mm-hmm. So for loading and unloading, how are we going to get this done, Aavak?
Right, well, as with anything in Factorio, and something I really do like to stress, there's a million ways that you can do anything. Some are more time efficient, some are more material efficient. They'll take longer to happen, but you need less of an investment in resources to get it working. You just have to wait for more time for it to produce the same effect. Some are just look better.
And then there's the way I play, which is just, does it work? Yes. Done.
Pretty much.
You don't have to worry about it.
That is exactly how Shen does things. Now, the way that we're going to do it is, the idea here is to get as much iron onto this whenever it stops. Now, we can, if you actually had a look at the schedule here, we can change the length of time that it'll stop at any stop. So you can change the equation in a lot of different places. But for the sake of this, we want to try and load the wagons as fast as we possibly can. We've got an awful lot of iron coming down. Now, by the way, this splitter over here is anything but efficient. It'll just get the job done. But when you're setting up yours, look for different ways. Look for more efficient ways to make sure that the belts are properly balanced and that you're not wasting any throughput if that is your thing. Or you can just look for pretty patterns, which is effectively what I did there and why it looks the way it does. Now, I'm not going to lie. I have a certain style of aesthetics and I stick to it. And you may be wondering why we're splitting these up the way we are. And that's because we want a buffer chest. This way it ensures that the throughput of the lines of the belts isn't going to be the limiting factor on how quickly we can get things into the train. Now, unfortunately, at the moment, we don't actually have very good power distribution. So it's going to make it a little bit more tricky for us to get the power across to everything. In fact, for the sake of symmetry, we will probably just go with 4 on each side until we get better power poles which can distribute our energy a little bit further. But what we're doing here is the iron will be pulled off the belt, popped into the steel chest, and then from the steel chest into the wagon. Now what that means is when the train isn't there, only these inserters are not going to be working, because these inserters are still going to be able to pull the iron off the belt and put it into the steel chest until they run out of room. Then when the train stops, it can just all be pulled out of the chest, and that would help in cases where perhaps you weren't mining as much as you used to. So you kind of need the downtime when the train isn't there for the back row of inserters to pull stuff off the belt and just fill these iron chests up so that when the train does stop, you've got just a huge volume of iron just waiting to be loaded up. So it just makes it a little bit faster on the load, which is what we're trying to do here.
Well, the idea is you want to get as much ore on, or if not ore, then whatever object, onto the train as quickly as possible. And you're really not going to get as much as possible if you're loading directly from a belt onto the train itself. And this is the reason the reason why this is the case is because inserters get stack size bonuses, but only when pulling from one object to another object, one storage container to another container. They do not receive their stack size bonus if they're pulling from a belt or placing onto a belt. So if we were pulling directly from a belt onto the train cargo itself, we would only be pulling one piece of ore at a time. But since we're going to be pulling from these storage chests onto the cargo train, we're going to be pulling as many as our stack size is limited to. And that's just something you research. Here it is, inserter stack size, or item stack size bonus 1. We haven't even started researching this yet. But this is something that will make this type of setup, pulling from a box into a box, a lot more efficient than pulling directly from a belt into a box.
Yep, that's correct. Now, what we're going to do here is, generally, you'll find people will tend to have circuits for their trains. You might have 2 lanes, so you've got one-way lanes for your trains, and you can use signals to enforce that. But what we're going to do, as this is a very, very simple setup, we're just going to have the train have 2 engines, one on the front, one on the back, facing different directions, so it can simply turn on the spot. Effectively, when it reaches the end of the track, the other engine will be the one to pull it away and in the direction we want, and that is out in this direction. So I'm going to go ahead and build a diesel locomotive. It shouldn't take me too long, just a few electronic circuits, and then there we go. Ridiculously easy to build a train. Faster to build a train than most other things that I build, actually. That's a bit weird.
You can build entire buildings in your pocket in this game, so don't be surprised you can build a diesel locomotive in your pocket too. It's just part of the game.
True. Very, very good point. I'll actually put some wood on this side just for the sake of it. There we go. Just so we've got some extra fuel there. Now...
Okay, so both engines are fueled.
Yeah. At this point, we need to run the track back to base.
Sounds good.
Now, the aliens can attack the track and can destroy the track. I don't believe the train will take damage if it encounters a broken track. It'll just stop.
Mm-hmm. And if it encounters an alien on the track, it will just run over the alien. And
Same is true.
People do use this as a defensive measure. You can have a train just going in a loop around your base, like not even doing anything, just going in a loop, and it'll just pile over any alien it runs across.
Yep.
All right, some of these trees are blocking Mr. Aavak, so I'll help him.
Thank you very much.
Some of these gaps. That's what I'm good for.
Yes. Some might say it's all he's good for. Now, the way that you place a rail station will actually dictate the direction that the train has to try and stop on it. If you notice, if I put the train stop on the bottom, then the yellow arrows are telling me, well, the train is going to try and pull into this station from the left. We don't want that. We want it to pull in from the right, so it has to be at the top. So there we go. Our little train station has been made, and the Awesome Sauce Empire. You know what? I'm not even going to change that name.
Is that the name of our base now? The Awesome Sauce Empire?
Well, not Empire, I suppose. Let's can we rename it? How do we rename? Set name. Right. I see. So.
And as far as setting up the position of where to put your inserters for loading and unloading the train, the easiest way to figure out where to put them is simply to run the train to your designated train stop and then just look at it.
If you want to be on the train and control it, you just hit enter when you're right next to it, and there you go, you've got control. And then W and S will move it forward and back, as you might imagine. There we are. But what I would like to do here is actually set it up that goes to Ironton, stays there for half a minute, then goes to Awesome Sauce City, stays there for half a minute, and now I'm going to tell the train to run. So now it's currently waiting at this stop. Let's not worry about it. Yeah, let's go straight to the Awesome Sauce City station. So there we are.
All right, and when we press M, we can watch him on the map. There's Count Avacula on the train.
My metal steed.
And here he comes into station. And you can see what's in the cargo, just like any chest.
Now, the thing you want to do, because we want to do some work over here, and also I'm assuming Shen doesn't want to get killed accidentally by the train, I have stopped the train. And then you want to get out, you just hit enter. Generally speaking, do not hit enter on a train that's in motion, because you're going to jump out right next to the tracks. Now, if you're, feeling a little bit gutsy, maybe do it. But don't be too surprised if you die. You can build quite nice train stations. You can have multiple train stops, and you can actually have hub stations. And quite a lot of people get this is a part of Factorio that they really, really adore and spend a lot of time working on it. And someone that we often play with does tend to like his trains.
No.
Yeah, not the most efficient at it, but again, he has fun. That's, at the end of the day, all that you need for this game. It is a game, and the point of a game is for you to enjoy it. There we go. We'll just drag that out. Start moving these down. There we are. And I'm going to need 1 or 2 more. The spaghetti. Yeah, you can just get rid of that.
Let the spaghetti begin. Or continue.
Yeah, I was going to say, did it ever stop? Fairly sure it didn't. There we are. So there we go. So our train is now unloading. Shen, I'm going to tell it to start moving again. So be prepared.
I'm just fueling this side as well.
Cool. Just drop down the power pole.
Over here. We're good.
All right. Well, in that case, run the train.
Okay. Now
it's going to wait for a few.
Is set for going to Ironton and then to Awesome Sauce City, and it's just going to continue on that schedule for as long as you want. You can stop the train. Right, I think Aavak already went over this on his video. You can stop the train by clicking on this double line button, but for now we have it running.
That's right. Yeah. And I'm just going to make another squirrely little belt setup just to get all of this iron from the southern mining base connected up. Right, so now all we need to do is run across the tracks like an idiot, and then...
yeah, that's dangerous.
It's very dangerous. It's really, really dumb.
Aavak is a professional stunt actor.
I'm not. I'm just stupid. Right, let's go ahead and go for electric energy distribution. This is going to give us medium and big electric pulse, and these are hugely helpful in setting up these large outposts that rely on the energy from one central area.
They do require more advanced resources, though, and using 5 steel for 1 pole is quite a lot of steel, actually, especially if you're going to have poles all over the place. But, oh wow, look at this unloading. Look at this go. But yeah, the better poles are they're just way better. There's no reason not to use them.
There we go.
So while the line is backed up, all they're going to do is fill these boxes, which is fine. Let them fill the boxes to their heart's content. And you can see in the 30 seconds that the train has stopped here, we are going to unload all of this ore.
Yep.
Almost done. And the ore is gone.
Goodbye, train.
Yeah.
Get out of my mind, Shen. There we go. So I'm just finishing off the wall over here, and I'm going to hook it up to this one. And there we go. We've got our little train stopping off. Again, the unloading is messy, to say the least. But it does work, and oftentimes that's what you're really looking for. Let's pop that down. We'll get another one. There we go. Another little gate. Now, it's generally just common sense not to have to walk out of your base the same way a train wants to get into it. So, do yourself a favor and make a little door somewhere else in the wall so you don't have to try and, just guess when the train is going to arrive before nipping out through the gate that you built ultimately for the train itself. But there we are. So now we're not going to worry about iron for a very long time. In fact, we're not going to be able to unload this train much of the time. We can... Well, it's not actually too much reason to balance the belt up here per se. But it would... We've got all of this belt that isn't being used right now. So what we're going to do is going to just quickly do this. Just so that we get a little bit more ore on the belt and away from the train so that we can unload it a little bit faster. But that's the only reason you'd really want to do that. But there we are. So our first outpost is complete. The train will run back and forth to Ironton without any interaction from us, and once we've got electric energy distribution, we're going to be able to tidy it up a little bit. But you might be asking yourself, where next? Shen, do you have any ideas?
I think we need to do more outposts. Oh my goodness, look at the amount of pollution being made at that outpost over there.
Yeah, those miners...
Press Alt over there. Oh,
it's
my
pretty
goodness.
Nasty. Now,
but I think the plan is to do more outposts. One thing we need that we don't have right now is stone. And we touched on this, but I do see some stone that we can go gather in the northwest. We should probably head out there and get... Southwest also has some stone. And it's just something we're going to need.
Yeah, we're going to need a lot of stone.
If we want to keep doing more outposts, we're going to need walls. Walls require stone. We're going to need track. Track requires stone. So I really think stone is the next place we go.
We've got several hundred track at this point, possibly even in the thousands. But just before we wrap this episode up then, let's have a quick look at the difference between the electric poles. Now, we're actually going to need 2 of the big electric pole, and I'll show you why in just a moment. So, here's the AoE of the small electric pole. It's a 5x5. The medium electric pole, as you can see, is a 7x7, just 1 tile larger, but in many ways, that is all you're really going to need. You can do a lot more with that 1 extra tile. You might not think it, but you really can. Now, the small electric poles they've got a 5x5 area and 2 gap between them. And the same is true of the medium electric poles. They've got a 7x7, but 2 gaps between them. So they actually cover a greater distance if you're just trying to space them out. But if you're trying to cover a large distance, ultimately the best one for you is the big electric pole. Now, the big electric pole goes down. It's even smaller by 9 tiles than the small electric pole. You might be wondering why. It also has a much larger footprint. Well, the thing with this is that it has an enormous range. 2 big electric poles can stretch quite far apart before you need to place another. So these are the electric poles, these are the pylons that you really want to be using if you're trying to cover a distance with electricity. And ultimately, that's what we're going to probably do off camera, is just change all of these small electric poles to just a couple of large electric poles, just reaching all the way across to the other outpost. Shen there, playing chicken with a train. Not a very clever idea, in my opinion, but, well...
I have bested many a trains in my day.
I see.
So we're going to go ahead and put down a huge electric pole here.
Yeah.
And then that allows us to get rid of all these small ones.
Yep.
Look at that.
Right, but that is going to be it for this episode, I think. In the next, as Shen has mentioned, we will probably either bring you back to set up another outpost if there is perhaps something, a different sort of building challenge to highlight, or we'll already have built one that'll bring us in some stone, because that is really what we're lacking at the moment. But the next big thing that we're going to be working on has to do with these black splotches on the ground, because I think it is time for us to start looking into the oil industry. There is a lot of stuff that you make with oil, from plastics to fuel canisters to batteries. All of that comes from oil. So all of the mid to late game tech is really hidden behind the oil industry. So that's what we're going to be focusing on there. So until next time, I hope you've enjoyed this episode, but take care.
Have a good day.